Good morning and welcome to the very first episode of Millennial Margin. My name is Jared and I am so excited to be here with you today. This has been a project that's been in the making for the last few years as I've been basically pulling together resources that have been broken down into weekly series and further into daily episodes with the ultimate goal of basically helping you build margin in your personal finances. So let's jump right into it. So again, my name is Jared and I'm a millennial. I know that may have a negative connotation to some of you, mainly because my generation has been painted as lazy, entitled, and largely unfocused, some of which is true. But there's another side of the coin that often isn't shown, and that is that we have turned the status quo upside down. We really have moved in a direction of leaning into how technology can make life better, and just like this platform, being able to have the opportunity to teach people all over the place from simply just adopting and leaning into certain technologies. But we've also seen that in the disruption of the cab industry with Uber, or the hotel industry with Airbnb and VRBO. But that being said, we also know that this generation's in a lot of hurt. I mean, they're in a lot of trouble, not only because of student loans, but because we've been basically shadowed by the baby boomer generation who acquired quite the mass fortune over their lives, and yet we have trailed them in success at comparable ages. We've taken longer to marry, we've taken longer to have families and establish households. But I believe a lot of that came back to the behavioral change that we saw as millennials just, in large part, saw the crushing debt, saw the responsibility around having large sums of things to take care of. And so what we've seen is people move in a direction of minimizing what they own and making sure that the things they do own actually bring value to them. And so what you've seen is movements like minimalism, or tidy living, or tiny house living, or doing without a car and taking public transportation. We've seen a lot of these things crop up that were existent before, but people have been leaning more and more into them, seeing it as, okay, well, did that thing, whatever, fill in the blank, did that actually bring the value that we thought that it would bring? So I believe the millennial generation is really looking for margin. They're really looking for the ability of not only being able to work remotely where they want to work from, when they want to work, but also the margin in living life on their terms. And really, this isn't catering to that, but it's more in line with trying to help people build margin into their life based on how they want to live their lives. So personal finance, I believe, affects every person's life. And not only from a general sense, but it affects the way that people make decisions when and if they get married, the level of risk they're willing to take on, the career field that they walk down, amongst many other aspects. And I believe that personal finance is one of those aspects that is unfortunately largely taboo. A lot of people don't like talking about it. And although I'm kind of that guy that will walk up to people and ask them, questions about their personal finance because I'm enamored by it, most people don't operate that way. And most people see it as something that is not something they necessarily feel comfortable talking about. So that's largely why I created this platform, this community, this place for people to come to be able to voice what they're walking through with regards to their personal finances, and basically have a daily coaching session per se for little things, little aspects that they can shift or change in order to make a massive change in their trajectory of their personal finances. So I had this professor in graduate school who unfortunately passed away towards the end of the semester, but he was teaching a international banking course, and he would use this quote quite often, and the quote was, "Opportunity favors the prepared." And I wrote down the quote. I remember writing down the quote, and I remember going back to the quote and realizing how profound it was, and how often we don't realize that we actually do need to prepare in order to take advantage of opportunity. But beyond that, I felt like something was missing, and I wish I could go back and ask him why it wasn't included. Maybe it was intentional, maybe not. But opportunity favors the prepared, but the prepared must actually act on that opportunity. And I believe that is what our society is dealing with right now. What they're challenged with is the fact that we're in the information age. There's information available on pretty much any topic you can think of. But the problem is that people are taking in information, but they're not necessarily applying that information. They're not necessarily taking that information, and although they're prepared to make the decisions, they're not necessarily making those decisions to change the trajectory of their lives. So here's an opportunity. The opportunity is you have this platform that makes this information available to you. Now, all you need to do is act upon it. Coming back daily and getting better at managing your personal finances and figuring out not only the personal finance aspect of it, but ultimately why you are building margin, why you want to build margin in your personal finances, and ultimately building that life that you have dreamed of, that life that you have wanted to build. And I believe that happens as we build in habits on a regular basis. So I believe the habits have a compounding effect, whether positive or negative. And as this resource has become available, and as we meet on a daily basis through each of the episodes and each of the topics that we walk through, you have an opportunity to basically take this information and apply it directly into your life to change the trajectory of your life. So speaking of taking action, there's a Jim Rohn quote that I love. And what it is if you do not design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what? They have planned for you. Not much. And I love this quote because it's one of those things where it's like, I wish it wasn't true, but people are largely focused on their own success. They're focused on their own picture, their own trajectory. And oftentimes we don't see that in its almost its real form. We see it as like, oh yeah, they're definitely fighting for our highest and best good when they may not actually be thinking about you at all. And that's why I think it's important for each of us to plan our way, to figure out what it is you ultimately want and chase after that. So my call to action today is to make the decision to not only take in this information, not only absorb this information, not only be a silo of knowledge, but to apply this information. Take this information and apply it into the specific area that we're looking at on a daily basis. And I believe that you will see a trajectory where you'll be improving, and maybe it's small steps over time, but you'll be improving over time to where you'll see a compound effect into your life. So my challenge to you today is to lean into that. So if this resource is actually helpful to you, please go ahead, like this episode, comment below, leave comments for me in regards to what you're walking through, and I'll do my very best to respond to those. But also hit the notification bell so that it reminds you of these episodes so that you can hop on and allow that compound effect to set in for your personal finances going forward. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.